Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes, bringing you another Old Man Orange Presents Via VHS episode. One of them from the rarities vault that we have from back in the day that just never got put out. So come join us for another fun-filled retro movie review. Let's jump on in.
So what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Via VHS Retro Movie Podcast. And, this week, I think it just got weird. I was thinking, we had a movie planned. I was like, I'm not going to do that movie because it's 2 ocean movies in a row because we just did Waterworld. And it turned out the movie I was going to do, which was Orca, another podcast, did the exact same movie this week. So I was like, okay, that was the right decision. It's like, we don't want to double up on ocean movies. But then I just realized that a couple episodes ago, we just did Slipstream with Mark Hamill. And then now we're doing Corvette Summer with Mark Hamill. And I just got to say this before we go into the review. I love cars. That car was ugly as ass, right? That was an ugly car.
It's a funny paint job to put on a Corvette, and just like all the extra, like it's almost like that's a perfect example of like when you're a teenager and you just start slapping all kinds of things on there when
shit. Yeah.
You don't know when to stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it just didn't work. It was, the Stingrays are nice, obviously, as is. But sometimes simple's better. I didn't like the hood scoop. I didn't like any of it. I thought the car looked like ass. Yeah,
the only thing that was kind of cool is that it was right-hand drive, which I think was one of those things. It's like, well, that's kind of hip that he put that in there like that. I had a buddy in high school that if he would have saw that, that would have made his day that it was right-hand drive because he always wanted a vehicle like that.
Well, that was a big signature thing of it. The sparkle red was nice. Everything else just could have stopped. But anyway, we'll get into that. But I'm talking to Spencer Scott Holmes, and how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. And what I was thinking is because you mentioned that we did a Mark Hamill movie only a couple movies ago, but we only did a car movie like 2 episodes ago, too.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we did Burt Reynolds, and maybe this was just a bad choice. Oh, okay. Overall, this is a bad choice.
No. I think it's a great choice because I felt like this is something I've always wanted to see, and I'm glad now I can know what it's all about because I always had it's just an interesting concept of Mark Hamill, literally 2 seconds after pretty much Star Wars almost, and just seeing what he's going to do next. Though technically, this movie was lined up almost in the same way as like Star Wars. It wasn't like, oh, I did Star Wars, guess what I'm going to do now? It's just like, well, this was sort of planned out together.
Yeah. It's kind of like Michael J. Fox and the Teen Wolf thing. I think Teen Wolf was done before Back to the Future, but it came out after, so they were able to capitalize on the Back to the Future thing.
Yeah.
Which, I think it was kind of similar to that. But I love Mark Hamill. He's no Michael J. Fox, but I love Mark Hamill. But yeah, this is an interesting. We did the car movies. As a matter of fact, Cannonball Run 2 was advertised to me after I finished this. Dude, we just did Burt Reynolds, and it was advertising me to do this. But I've had this poster. This is definitely one of the posters that's in my mom's collection that I reference all the time. It's one of my favorite ones, and I was like, man, I've always wanted to kind of watch this and sit down and see what's really going on with it. Of course, Annie Potts is in it too,
which is really cool.
Yeah, really cool. She has a smoke show in this.
Well, also, let me say this. You know what vehicle is amazing in this is Annie Potts' van, I think, steals the show. Like that, when I was seeing that thing, I'm like, dude, that's what I need. You could just totally live in that. It's got a cool waterbed in there. I like the 70s like attire to it. You even got a sink and everything in there. Like it's like that thing's set ready to rock and roll. You slap a computer in there for modern day likeness, and then like, why even go home anymore?
Yeah, definitely. If I was single, that would be the life I'm living for sure. I would do without the waterbed though. Waterbed's got to go. Not a waterbed fan.
It's like those ones I kind of like would almost like the idea of seeing like what's a waterbed like nowadays. I don't remember the last time I remember waterbed was when I was a kid. Like I haven't literally seen one since like the early 90s.
Yeah. Definitely I was. How do I put this in G-rated form? Definitely was too young to enjoy any adult-rated activities on that, so I don't have a good idea of what that's like. But I would imagine it's kind of annoying. is what I would think. I would think that would probably kind of suck. I don't know.
Wait.
I might be totally wrong.
It's
The
probably like
70s
Corvette Summer, where like you just hear that slopping sound in the background every single time anybody shifts their weight.
I swear. Oh man, we used to like somebody gifted our family one. Somebody cursed our family with one. And I remember we didn't have it for very long. Everybody hated it.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I used to just run in and just jump as hard as I could. Because the whole rule is don't jump on that thing because you never know what's going to happen. And we used to just run in and just like belly flop on that bitch. Like it was.
Who needs a pool when you got a waterbed for the kids?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody was so worried all the time it was going to get punctured and then it was just gone one day. Yeah. And I think we all felt good about that. But yeah, I hated that thing. They offered it to me. I was like, nah, I don't want it. Just throw it out. But yeah, a lot of fun stuff with this movie. But Corvette Summer, 1978, Mark Hamill, Annie Potts. Can't remember who directed it. Does it even matter?
It's the dude who did Batteries Not Included. And
oh, yeah, that's right.
He did a couple other things. I'll have to take a look at him. But I was like, when I was looking through there, I was like, oh, yeah. Matthew Robbins. He's the dude who also wrote Sugarland Express for Steven Spielberg. And then he's just got kind of like a handful of just like random little things, like The Legend of Billie Jean. He did like all those ones like that. You're like, oh, okay, yeah.
Dragon Slayer, Legend of Billie Jean, Amazing Stories. He was involved in that. He must have been in that Lucas Spielberg circle.
I think so.
That's how he probably got met up with Mark Hamill somehow, was that, I would imagine.
Yeah, because it seemed like he all came out of that same kind of group, you know.
Yeah, he did that 1991 movie Bingo, which I totally forgot about till just this second. He's not every family's best friend, and it's got this super 90s poster.
Is Bingo the one with the dog?
The movies have a bona fide new star, Bingo,
a sort
of canine Macaulay Culkin. That's what it says.
Bingo's the dog that's also been hanging out at Michael Jackson's house, and his parents are all worried about him. I'm surprised that movie's 2 steps away from having a cameo of Bingo playing basketball with Michael Jordan.
No, Judge, I could not have done that. The dog was neutered. Anyway. Oh man. I don't feel good about any of this. I don't look at anybody. I'm really tired. I'm relying on coffee. I'm 87% caffeine at this point. That's all I have left. So, anyway. Well, MJ must have. Never mind. I'm not going to tell that story. It would have been funny. It would have been funny, but I'm not going to tell on the podcast. Oh, sorry. I thought it froze. Big edit there anyway. All right. Well, we're just being silly and laughing around about this movie. I guess we should go ahead and review it. So let's fire up the rewind review. All right. So as I said, Corvette Summer, 1978. Mark Hamill, Annie Potts. What was that guy's name again? Son of a bitch.
Okay, let me pull that up for you real quick.
It's Matthew Robbins.
Yeah, there we go. That dude.
You may know him as the director of Bingo.
Yeah, the all important one.
You probably know. Yeah. Also, he did some Paul McCartney stuff in 1993.
Hey, well, that's cool. I like doing that.
Paul McCartney. So, as you know, the rewind review, before we do the movie, the review, we like to go back to the week that was and just kind of look at what pop culture was like. We're going back to June 2nd, 1978, when this movie was released. And if you know anything about Box Office Mojo or anything, after 1980, things get wonky. So we don't have much of a box office for you this week. But when you hear because first of all, the week that Corvette Summer came out, they don't even have data for. It skips like 3 weeks where there's data. But when you hear the music charts, which I do have for you, you'll know what movie was number one at the box office. It's pretty fucking clear. So you ain't got to worry about that. So we're going to look at the Billboard charts real quick. The Billboard Hot 100 from the week of July 3rd, 1978. Number one at the box office was Too Much Too Too Much, Too Little, Too Late by Johnny Mathis and Denise Williams.
Mm-hmm.
A second, this is the kicker. You'll know what's going on here. You're the One That I Want. John Travolta, and Olivia Newton-John.
John Travolta.
Olivia Newton-John.
So Grease was probably the big competition for Corvette Summer. So what was your summer experience? Were you going to have the Grease experience, or you going to have the Corvette Summer one?
Man, my mom was the biggest Grease fan, and she used to tell me that when she worked at she was working at the drive-in at this point when Grease came out. She wasn't working at the movie that theater where she became friends with Alex's mom and all that stuff, all that history that led to this. But she said that when she worked at the drive-in, people for months before Grease came out were coming up, hey, when's Grease coming out? People were asking nonstop, when's Grease coming out? When's Grease coming out? People were so excited to see that movie, she said. And when it came out, she said she probably watched it like 80 times. She was working at the concession stand and would get off work and then watch a round of it and then go home.
Yeah.
So Grease was such a huge fucking deal.
Well, it's that one that I think about, like, when it comes down to kind of like that 50s era nostalgia that really has disappeared along, you know what I mean? Because I felt like even when we were growing up as kids, like that 50s nostalgia was still like hardcore strong. Mm-hmm. And I feel like in about the last 20 years, that's just sort of faded away. And I know it's just gotten farther and farther, and maybe there's just not as much people clamoring for, old school diners and, the music of the American Graffiti era and all that kind of stuff. But like, I just feel like that stuff that seems still big for the longest time has dipped farther and farther. Grease still has its, bit popular. I'm not saying there's not people out there that don't enjoy that, but I just feel I don't see as much of that stuff anymore. I don't see that like popped up on all kinds of stuff.
I think it's because, and this sounds really sad, but the people who were teenagers during that time that most people are nostalgic about is their teenage years. And that's what you most associate with the 50s is like the teenagers, the greasers, the cars, and the poodle skirts and all that bullshit. Mm-hmm. I mean, cool stuff. Most of those people are starting to kind of die off. I mean, so you're born in, you're a teenager in the, mid 50s. So you're born, late 30s. They're still around, but they're not,
Yeah, you're almost like proto baby boomer in a sense, almost by that point. You're like you might even be, before the war.
Yeah. Well, let's see. My grandmother-in-law, who's here right now, she was born. She's the same age as my grandfather. So she's 38, 1938 or 39, one of those 2 years.
Yeah.
So she's 85.
Yeah, well, as I say, I got an uncle that I always picture him being like the guy that was totally the 1950s like one, because he's like about 10 years older than my dad, making him, I think he's about like 80 something right now. So so it's like I feel like he's the one who hit like right there in that era, Yeah, that was my grandparents. That was the 50s. They were born late 30s. And came of age right there in the mid 50s when all that shit was cool. I got some cool pictures of my grandfather today. Oh, that's always cool.
Yeah, I tried to get those in time for when we were doing Circle Race. I could show the bootlegging car, but
Oh yeah.
Too little, too late. Grease. Killing at the box office. Obviously, it's number 2 on the charts with You're the One That I Want. Shadow Dancing, Andy Gibb. So you have the Bee Gees. Rocking the charts with Grease, and then you have Andy Gibb doing Shadow Dancing. Twice we're referencing Paul McCartney here with A Little Luck from Wings.
Oh yeah, coming off the Wings stuff, all good material there.
And then Feels So Good, Chuck Mangione. Is that the saxophone song?
It is. Yeah, that's the dude. I always think of him from King of the Hill.
Speaking of King of the Hill, rest in peace.
Yeah, I know Dale passed away. Second Dale technically, but because there's two. Yeah, because the first 2 seasons have a different Dale.
And we all know who Dale 3 is. Threesis. Praise hell, praise Dale. Coming in with the rest of it, The Closer I Get to You, Roberta Flack with Donny Hathaway. Great song at number 7, Imaginary Lover, Atlanta Rhythm Section.
Oh, there we go.
Banger. On Broadway, George Benson, Take a Chance on Me by ABBA. Fuck ABBA.
Yeah, it's like, where's that going?
I hate ABBA. I hate ABBA so much. This is not a machismo kind of like, like front. Like this is I just told you last week I love TLC. I fucking hate ABBA. It respects you if you like them. I get it. A lot of people love ABBA.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck ABBA.
Yeah, no, it's just the Mamma Mia movie was always bizarre in my opinion. That's all I got to say about that. Yeah. Just because it's got Pierce Brosnan in it doesn't mean it's going to save the.
No, just take it. When I hear "Take a Chance on Me," that's the worst one actually for me. Take a chance on me. Da, 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 da. I mean, it's right up there with the Small World.
Oh
like,
yeah,
all the ABBA songs just
digging right in.
Yeah. This time I'm in it for love. Player. It's number 10. So that's your top 10. I did the top 10 because we didn't have a box office this week. So, damn, going down. Like I just real quick. Baby, Hold On, Eddie Money.
Mm-hmm.
Baker Street, Gary Rafferty. Stop it. Yeah. Another banger. Moving Out, Billy Joel. Come on. Oh, 2 out of 3 Ain't Bad, Meatloaf. What is 1978 doing? Deacon Blues, Steely Dan.
I still love how like whenever we do like, I was gonna say whenever we do 70s like Billboard charts, I love how I know the songs in the 70s much better than I know the songs in the 90s. I think that's always the thing that's kind of like the ironic part is like I'll know mostly all these songs, but you'll go through like a 90s list and I'll go like I know like 3 or 4 of those ones. Like if there's a movie it was in, maybe I might know it.
When we're talking as a whole, okay, as an entire, there's obviously exceptions in each decade, but when we're talking as a whole, we can debate on movies which decade was better. We go 70s, 80s, 90s. There's a good case for all 3 of them because I like the 90s because the indie stuff started kind of coming back. The 80s were cool because of their fucking cocaine, and then
the 80s.
It's the 80s, and then 70s were cool because it was kind of like a interesting era where they just kind of was like edgier and
it's the most hardcore era of filmmaking. I think the 70s is like the movies there. You get stuff that I almost have a hard time believing will ever be able to be made again.
Yes. So the 70s, 80s, and 90s all have their unique stand, and you can have a good debate about all of them. And you could say you like any one of those better, and I understand it. But with music, it's unequivocally the 70s for me. The 60s are good. I'm a Stones fan. The 60s are good, but even the Stones got better in the 70s. Everything, to me, the 70s are better.
70s is just such the diet. It's like the 70s combined with the 80s is like you have everything. You don't. Yeah. You literally don't need any more music beyond the 70s and 80s in a sense. Like, not saying there's not great stuff all over the place, but if that was like what you got stuck with for the rest of your life was just 70s and 80s music, it'd be fine.
100%. That's all I listen to.
That's pretty much it too.
Yeah, I listen to a good chunk of 60s stuff, but definitely it's heavy on the 70s and then 80s. And I've even gotten to yacht rock lately. That's kind of my guilty pleasure. I love listening to some yacht rock stuff. Some of those yacht rock. Do you think
it's when you sort of get older? Like I just thought about like I was telling my buddy the other day. I was like some of that Sammy Hagar stuff's pretty good. Is that like the sign that you're getting older? Is when Sammy Hagar starts to be like, man, there was some good rockin' tunes there. not to say that I never like disliked Sammy Hagar, but it just felt like I feel like he's gotten better as I got older.
Yeah, no, that's 100% what it is. It's like they say that when you walk into a grocery store and you like the music they're playing, that means you're the target demographic. And if you're the grocery store's target demographic, you're not hip anymore. So just know that.
It's the worst part that like the music at a grocery store is like, I know that better than I would know it like almost anything else. Like I'm like, oh, I know all these songs.
If you played 10 songs in a grocery store and then 10 songs on current radio, I'm going to know 10 songs in the grocery store and I'm going to know 0 of the fucking songs on the radio right now.
Exactly.
Maybe 1 sometimes. Like there's, this hit of the summer, I might know that one. But overall, I'm definitely done. But I've been there my whole life. I've been in the 70s, 80s thing my whole life. So
it makes me feel much older than I really am because I feel like all the stuff that I really liked was already old, I guess, in a sense from the 90s perspective. So that now it makes when I see something like, oh, that's like 55-year anniversary, like Jesus, like that was what I was listening to when I was in school.
Well, I just remember I remember so vividly we're in this we're going to get to the movie. This canary yellow Audi that my mom had, and we're driving the road and we're listening to all her music. Mm-hmm. And she goes one day, she goes, I show you all the music I listened to when I was in high school. Why don't you show me what music you like? Why don't you show me, she's trying to give me a chance to kind of introduce her to who, what I'm into. Mm-hmm. Like, Mom, this is what I like. This is what I listen to. I mean, this is it. You're listening to it right now. You introduced me to this, and I just,
She was preparing herself to be like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna accept the Limp Bizkit fella, and
yeah,
she was getting ready. It's like, you know what? The time's coming. I'm gonna be open minded.
You know what's so funny? You say this. I was in the car one time, and she's like, she tried that again, and I happened to have a CD, and she's like, play what you like. I was like, I was taking this to school, but I'll play it in the car. And then so I turn up the radio, and we're in the car, we're driving to school, and all of a sudden you're with the bang, dang, diggy, in the She's like, okay, yeah, okay.
Kid Rock.
What does he say? He says, get in the pit and try to love someone, Mom. That's what he says. What he says.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. I went through a Kid Rock phase. It's okay.
That's the funny thing is when I get older, like Limp Bizkit and Kid Rock, almost like I didn't like them when I was necessarily a kid, but when I get older, I like them nostalgically because it reminds me of the 90s. Yeah. So I like it almost more because of that. So now I kind of go, hey, I got this is good stuff. Takes me back. Like I remember just hearing this in the background now. I
did go through a new music phase. This is another one of those excerpts we're going to clip out and put in the conversation, like the miscellaneous conversation file for those episodes. But I went through a phase where I did listen to some new music. It was the early 2000s, and it was Stained, Nickelback, Three Doors Down, Puddle of Mud, and I was in my buddy Keith had a Camaro, and we drive around all that time. And
Frank post grunge,
yeah, Frank, a lot of Stained. Stained was the big one for us. Puddle of Mud. Speaking of Puddle of Mud, if you ever want to hear something funny, go listen to them cover Nirvana. The lead singer of Puddle of Mud. It's so bad that he had to issue an apology. It's so bad. And I don't even like Nirvana, but it was like, oh my God. Anyway.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, well, like all these experiences, this is what your Corvette Summer is supposed to kind of be about. It's supposed to be about what it was like for, your high school experience. I feel like this writing, whoever put this together writing wise, not the same director, I don't think, but he put Mark Hamill through like what his, high school experience probably was, that he had this cool car that he built, which it's really ironic that Corvette they find it like in a junkyard. So it makes you feel like, oh man, like that thing's probably been sitting here for a while. The car's only 4 years old at this point. Like it's a 73, Stingray, which in 78, when the movie's put together or comes out in 78, but the movie's probably made in 77. That car is not very old. It's just like, how the hell has it got like into that junkyard so fast? Yeah.
It looked like it had been wrecked.
Yeah. That's gotta be what it is, but
yeah, this movie's pretty interesting. It's we'll kind of get into Corvette Summer, obviously. As I said, 1978. Starred Mark Hamill as Kenneth Dantley, Annie Potts as Vanessa, Eugene Roach as Ed McGrath, and then William Bryant as some policeman. And then there was a bunch of just people you don't recognize, except for Danny Bonaducci, who I did recognize really early in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did recognize him. I was like, "Oh, is that Danny Bonaducci?" He plays Coots. He's in it at the beginning, and you don't see him again.
No, that's it.
And the Brian James guy, I gotta look at this guy up real quick. He looked really familiar. Oh, Blade Runner's where I saw him. He's also in Fifth Element. Small roles, but I do recognize him.
Yeah, because there's some of these guys that just like appear in kind of other stuff here and there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, TK Carter. Oh, The Thing. I knew I recognized that guy. The other guy at the car wash with him was from The Thing.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to remember who I saw him. Like, I know who he is. But yeah, Corvette Summer, 1978. Basically, Mark Hamill is obsessed with cars. Mm-hmm. The movie opens with him. You don't know who he's with at first. He's with some other kids and an old guy, and they're walking around this junkyard and they're looking for a nice car, and he sees a Corvette going by on this thing, like they're getting ready to scrap it. And what does Mark Hamill do? He rushes to the trash compactor. We've never seen that before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's the first thing I was thinking is, oh my God, is he going to get in the trash compactor again? Like, how on the nose can you be? Yeah, so they find this Corvette, and the school is putting it together as like a project to build this Corvette, but Mark Hamill's got like the massive heart on for this vet. Like, this is his baby.
Yeah, he's taking ownership of it, though he has no ownership of it.
Zero ownership of it. But probably has to do with his home life. Who he has his mom who does not give a fuck about his existence at all.
Like, yeah, literally, she doesn't even realize that he's like gone off missing to Vegas for a good while, and two, she's like, oh, I'm just gonna move. If you happen to run into him, I guess you could tell him. I wasn't gonna say anything, but since you're here,
it'll make it a lot easier if you just tell him, because he'll find me. But I was like, this is like so you know how like Gen Xers get on social media, and you know I'm not talking shit because I associate more Gen X than I do millennial. But they'll get on there, like those hardcore Gen Xers will get on there and like, we were outside riding bikes all day and parents didn't know where we are. They had to have a commercial come on at 10 o'clock at night to let us know where our kids are. And you kind of roll your eyes at that. But then you watch this movie, I'm like, this lady just didn't, like, she acted like she loved him at the beginning, but then she just didn't care where he was. Like, that guy's like, hey, he's in Vegas. And she's like, oh, that's cool. Was he in trouble? No. Oh, okay, that's good.
Well, like she cares, but like she's not mean, but she's like literally like oblivious to like,
yeah, what's going on with her kid.
It's almost that too free spirited, because I feel like the true Gen Xer is supposed to have hippie parents, and that's what creates the Gen Xer kind of like attitude, is because you're raised by people that probably don't have the most proper way of, in a sense, like raising a kid. So you're going to get like the most mixed match parenting like groupage, and that's where I think some of those, like, you know, you're just left to like the wild in like the 70s.
That angst, yeah, that Gen X angst comes from. Yeah, it's weird. So Mark Hamill, he lives with his mom in a camper, I think, and you don't really get to see her that much, but you know, that's the thing. And he's building this car, he gets obsessed with it, and then when they finally get the car done, they unveil it, and I knew it was going to be ugly because I saw the
cover,
the
poster,
the poster, but man, it really was disappointing when you see this car. I'm like, this is like, it's dumb.
Oh, it looks like the vehicle that Ronald McDonald would like go, you know, drag strip racing with.
Is Ronald McDonald's vet.
Yeah.
He has a midlife crisis. And, you know, he's in this money laundering scheme with Grimace.
Yeah.
And he buys this ugly ass. The vet's nice by itself, but it's just the things they did to it. Stingrays are amazing.
Yeah, it's all the excess parts and goofy stuff put in there.
Yeah,
you know, and the whole time Mark Hamill's like, man, you know, I think we should adjust the spoiler again. You know, I think there's a couple things. Yeah, there's a few things you need to adjust there, Marky Mark. Come on.
Yeah, Marky Mark. Yeah, maybe you just start the fuck over. First of all, I don't think flames on red looks very good.
No, not when they're yellow flames on red. As I said, it totally gives it, like, you know, red and yellow works great for Hulk Hogan, but this doesn't look like a Hulk Hogan type vehicle. This looks so much like you're ready to like get sponsored by McDonald's. Yeah,
it would be great if it was a yellow vet and then you had like red flames. It'd been a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But it's just, make it black, make it dark blue. Spoiler alert, later in the movie, the car, we'll get to that, ends up gold for a bit. Yeah. And it looked way better.
Yeah, nothing else changed, but it's got a gold paint over it.
Yeah,
I think what it's supposed to sort of signify is that, like, when you're a kid, you think some things are way cooler than it really is, and you go a little too far on. I think that's what it was trying to say. It's supposed to be that car that it's going to really appeal hard to like that 10 to 15-year-old age range. I think that's what they're going with. Like, it almost has like, it looks like it should be like a Hot Wheels car.
I was just gonna say that it looks like a Hot Wheels car. It looks like one of those ridiculous Hot Wheels car made for a kid. who hasn't got any booty yet, which that leads to Mark Hamill. But yeah, so the kids are out driving it. They finally finish the car. Mark Hamill's like, obsessed over it. And the kids are all taking their turn driving up and down the strip doing their, American graffiti thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like the teacher's got like a CB radio kind of like saying, hey, okay, guys, come back, take your turns. Well, he tells them to go stop off and get some drinks. These other kids, Mark Hamill's not driving it. They go get the drinks, and then the car disappears. And Mark Hamill takes it way too hard.
Oh God, yeah, he's that's it. He's ready to drop out of high school and to go on this like crusade to find this vehicle, no matter what happens.
There's twice in this movie I had a realization about Mark Hamill, and it pairs with another realization about a movie that comes out 2 years after this. Is that Mark Hamill's a pretty good actor in this movie. He does it like I enjoyed him in this role.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that Mark Hamill does worse than about any actor in the history of movies is take bad news. Like when Darth Vader says, I'm your father, and he figures that out, he's like, no,
it's impossible.
He's so bad at that. And twice in this movie, he gets bad news and he takes it. He's just not good at that part of acting. He's just not.
Yeah. It does always get kind of goofy.
Yeah, like later, well, the teacher revelation, which we'll find out later, when he finds out that news, it was just so bad. I'm like, oh gosh, you can't take bad news. Yeah. Something about that. He just got some like really bad gag reflex for bad news or something. It's just not good, man. Oh man. So yeah, so he the car gets stolen, and he like obviously puts signs all over town because it's like a lost dog or something. Like nobody would like obviously people would know that car if they saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, he gets a hot tip that the car is in Vegas. So he it's kind of becomes like a cool adventure movie. He just goes to Vegas with nothing in his pockets and is determined to get his car back. And that's kind of what the Corvette Summer is his story in Vegas and trying to track down the stolen car and, fix this obsession that he has.
And obviously nobody tries to stop him whatsoever at school or anything like that. They just let him go off on this.
Well, he doesn't really tell anybody, but also there's also the whole thing like, why would it matter? Because his mom doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, he doesn't have any friends too. That's the other thing I kind of realized.
They do kind of drive that home a little bit in the beginning. At least they did a good job of that because they show you that his mom's kind of like interested in her life. Mm-hmm. There's that whole scene that after when you get that scene with him and the teacher at the beginning, like when the car's almost done and he goes up to see the car and whatever, and the teacher's in the office and they have a little talk about it. Before that, he's walking down the street and he keeps seeing people kissing and stuff. And he looks back like, kind of like, oh, I'm jealous and sad and lonely. And then, but while he's on his way up into the school and he's up on his way up the steps to go see the car, he walks by this random door and he opens it up and there's a dance going on in there. Mm-hmm. And all his friends are having fun and being, regular kids. And he shuts the door and goes and, jerks off to his car.
Yeah, so they should have had this like movie go real thing for it's like this guy's like really upset with his car. Like the teacher just finds him and he's just like sprawled out naked in the car. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm not touching that one. It does like, yeah, it gets the first part of this movie. There's moments in this movie where it's, lighthearted summer romp with kids. There's other elements that are kind of dark. Mm-hmm. His obsession with the car and just him like telling all the cops like, you ain't doing shit about my goddamn vet. That's not mine. And like, he's all upset about it. And it gets like, the music is just really, really sad and tragic or something like somebody stole his dog or something, or like his mom sold it for Coke, which seems likely.
Yeah. Well, this is a movie. I feel if this movie was made like 20 years later, like in the 90s or something like that, like they would like address that like there's something off about Mark Hamill's character. Like in this movie, they don't really. It's there. You could see it, but it's not really addressed in a sense. But this would have fit more into like a Rain Man style movie, like 20 years from now, like where it's like this kid doesn't socially. He's not really accepted by the rest of the thing. But the one thing he does understand is his car.
Oh, are you suggesting that Mark Hamill is on the spectrum in this movie? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, not necessarily that. But,
I don't think you're wrong, though.
But yeah, I feel that he's one of those kids that's kind of off. Like back, like in this day, they just go, whatever. Like let him be like, he'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah.
But, 20 years from now, they'd be like, oh, this is an issue. Like something's wrong with Mark here. You know what I mean? Like he's just not making friends. He wants to drive a right-handed or a right-hand drive car. Like he's in England, but he's not in England.
Yeah, it is odd. His whole obsession with the car is just really, really odd, and his loner mentality. And later on, what happens to Annie Potts is even weirder because she's throwing herself at him for like 30 minutes into the movie. I'm like, bro.
He's like I had a Corvette. Like everything else is going to be a downgrade.
You're a Pinto at best, ma'am.
Yeah, maybe a gremlin.
Maybe she's a gremlin. Oh my gosh.
I think that's sort of it. It's like he had a Corvette. It's just like he is not going back now.
She's at least a Mustang.
Yeah, definitely.
Like a Shelby Mustang.
Movie.
Yeah.
Especially in this one too, for sure. It's like one of those ones.
Shelby Cobra, maybe.
And as I said, that van I'd take that over the Corvette, the van she's got in this movie.
Oh God. Yeah. Like I said, without the waterbed, definitely. My grandparents had a Vanagon, a Volkswagen Vanagon, and they had one of the seats that would flip the other way. So we'd go down to Carowinds. We'd go down to the theme park, ride the Hurler. The Wayne's World roller coaster, and we'd go down there in that thing, and I loved sitting in that seat and looking at the cars behind you. It was just so cool. I don't know why.
You get that captain's chair kind of feel.
Yeah, it does. And then it had a camper to it. I can't remember if it had a sink. I know it had like a whole electronics area because my grandpa had a TV in it.
Yeah, you could use TV in a vehicle back in the day was like the most magic. You felt like you were so far in the future.
Oh my God.
Like, yeah, road trips were just never going to be the same.
Oh, I know. Yeah. That's something that my kids will never understand because there'll be tablets and phones and whatever. Like, here, take this. We'll be there in 20 minutes, but it's really an 8-hour trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is such a big deal in the 90s or the 80s because Alex, his family had a Astra van. It was like the further version of the future of the van that she had. And we had a TV in it. And we played Nintendo 64 on the way to the beach one time.
Yeah, it's just that thing is like so mind blowing. I remember being in there was one time in Boy Scouts we went on a trip somewhere, and like one of the Boy Scout leader dudes had a van, and in the back seat, of course, there was a TV with a VHS in there, and we were watching the Jedi on our trip there. I was like, this is the most magical thing ever. Like TV in a vehicle.
Oh my God. It was such a big deal.
Yeah.
And kids will take that for granted now. My kids are just gonna damn. Yeah, I mean those fire tablets are like $30 on Prime Day. It's like
you back in the day, like the hook that TV up would have been like a $1,000 project probably to get everything in there. Unless
you're my grandpa who could rig anything. Yeah. he bought that TV used, the van used, everything. But yeah, so he's hitchhiking to Vegas to try to find his car. And there's some funny things that happen along the way that's not really that funny. And then Annie Potts shows up in the van. And within 5 minutes of conversation, she goes, "Yeah, I'm going to be a hooker."
Yeah, it's like, come again?
I always thought that was a voice that she put on for Ghostbusters. But it's really not. That's just how she talks.
That's just how she talks and everything. Yeah. That's what I kind of thought too. I was like, huh. And it's like, oh, maybe that's just how she is and everything she does, Yeah.
I was sitting there thinking when I saw her, I was like, man, she'd have made a great Princess Leia. But then you think you're watching it, you're like, you're a little short for a stormtrooper. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, the voice wouldn't sound as regal, I guess.
Yeah. I'm on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan.
It'd be like almost too much sass and attitude.
Yeah. Darth Vader. Only you would be so bold. Like, whoa, okay. Anyway.
You're like, wow, this is an interesting family. Like, like how are you guys all related? Your father's black. You got this accent, and then you got the whitest boy ever here. To this day, I still think that, like, literally when Darth Vader takes his helmet off, he literally should have just been black the whole time. And then Luke's just going, really? Does that mean that I am too?
No, you're not. Not sure how this happened, but you're definitely not. It's so cool if you had like a fro, but just like a big gash in the middle of it.
Just like one of those. And I think the best thing to do is to really don't say anything. Actually, just let the scene play out the same way. The audience is just like, that's his father? Like, it's space, future.
And, yeah. And it goes to credits from there. You don't have the funeral scene. You don't have
No. Yeah, just like.
And just them staring at each other for 47 seconds, and it goes dun, 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 end of the trilogy.
Yeah, I feel like what were you guys literally questioning this the whole time? Like, did you hear his voice?
He did go to the dark side.
But yeah, like literally in this movie too, this is one of those movies where it plays off being a hooker. Really, is like, it's just a career decision. It's not that big of a deal. Like, it's never like one of those things where it's like, whoa, like what trauma or anything did you have? Like, nah, I need a job. I thought I'd do something that's easy and fun. Look at, I got a cool van. Like, I'll just drive around. I'll be rolling the dough. It's Vegas. Everybody loves hookers in Vegas.
You do think it's going to be dark when she announces it. Like, it feels like this is going to take a dark turn again. But then it doesn't. She's just like, yeah, I'm gonna hook. But she doesn't.
Well, if this movie was 72, this would have been like one of those real dark things there, almost like one of those ones where like at some point Mark Hamill's going to have to go like kill the pimp, like it's, Taxi Driver or something like that.
This is like oh man. Yeah, that was a weird thing, but when she got nominated, I think she won an award, a Golden Globe for Best Upcoming Actress. She was great in this. I mean, this movie was, despite being kind of on that vein of like silly, kind of summary, like teenager things that we review sometimes, like it was definitely pretty coherent. It was a well-made movie overall. Like, it was definitely structured well and flowed well. It's, even though it was kind of silly in premise and concept and had some silly moments, it felt like a real movie.
Yeah.
As opposed to some of the bullshit a lot of the bullshit that we watch.
Yeah, no. It still was like the whole way through. I was very like interested to seeing where it's going, so on like that. And each time that Mark gets closer to getting in his car and he finds it, and there's a lot of scenes where Mark's running at full sprint.
He is booking it.
Oh my gosh, it's like Run Lola Run's got nothing on Mark Hamill in this film.
No, he is. Yeah, he's like Tom Cruise. Just running everywhere. Like,
full speed. I mean, like, and that means he did multiple takes of that,
Yeah. So basically, so Annie Potts gets him in the shaggin' wagon, drops him off to the strip, and she like totally comes on to him like, hey, you could be my first customer. And Mark Hamill's like, I don't have any money. I would have had to have been like, I owe you. Like, sorry. But yeah, so Andy Potts is like all over him, and he's a little shy about it because he hasn't had that kind of fun time yet. So
he only knows a Corvette.
Yeah, he only knows his way around, under a hood, not under a bonnet or blouse or anything. So yeah, so she kicks him out of the van, and he just goes on his merry way, and he's walking around Vegas looking for this car. And my favorite part of the whole movie is my favorite part for me, and I actually screen recorded it so I can send it to Jody tomorrow, where he gets in there and he thinks he's finally found the car. He gets a hot tip of where this car is, and he goes in there, and it's a Datsun 280. Well, it might have been a 240. I think it was a 240 Z, painted up, but it looked just like the same paint job as the Vet. A Datsun. A Datsun? I loved it. I love it.
It's funny too, because like nowadays, like a Datsun's that's like a really prized car to have.
Oh, well, that's what Jody has. He has a 280Z, and that thing is nice. I love that car, and it's got some scoot to it too.
Well, it's like this is still that time period where a Japanese car is not looked at as a good thing yet. You know what I mean? It's looked at as cheaper, but like in the longest run, those Japanese cars are like, oh, no. I would take that Datsun over the Corvette.
Yeah. Jody, all he ever had was up until probably about 10 years ago, all he had ever was Datsun and Nissan ever. He had a Pathfinder. He had a Frontier. Mm-hmm. But he used to tell the story about he used to go to work, and there's a bunch of good old Southern boys where he works in this factory is here in the South, and they made fun of him. He bought a Datsun truck in 1980. It was his first truck, and they were like, "You got a Datsun truck? Got that damn Jap car, and ain't worth a piece of shit." And 20 years later, he still has his. And they've been through like 8 Fords or Chevys by then, but they made so much fun of him. Like a big old thing of Copenhagen in their mouth. You dumb son of a bitch, got a damn.
Yeah. Well, you don't got diesel? Come on.
Good dog. Fuck the ozone layer. Goddamn shit. I mean, yeah, like that thing with Judge, he's like, oh, it's good on gas. Like, oh, fuck gas. Can you put a deer in it? I don't think so. They even got deer in Japan.
Well, it's one of those ones too. It's like, at the end of the day, like a Nissan, it's just like a Toyota, where it's like pretty much the most reliable cars ever made.
Yeah, I drove it. That was when I drove that truck for a while. Mm-hmm. You let me have it and drive it for a good little bit. I was one of it finally broke down when I was driving it. But yeah, those little Datsuns, man, which eventually became Nissan is a Datsun. They
changed the name in the U.S. for some weird reason
because he thought it sounded more American. Nissan sounds more American than Datsun. No.
Well, I thought it was the other way around. I thought they changed Datsun to sound more American and Nissan's the Japanese version.
Oh, well, see, I was always told, but they both sound equally as Japanese to me.
Well, that's like the old school Toyota name from like the 60s, like the Toyota Pet. Like that just sounds like that's like an early version of a Tamagotchi.
Yeah, the Toyota Pet.
I got to feed my Toyota Pet today. Hold on. I'd shit all over the floor again.
Yeah, flies buzzing around everywhere. Damn Toyota Pet. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But I just thought it was hilarious. Datsun. It's like, man, I'd kill to have that Datsun right now. The Datsun looked better than the Vet did.
Yes, by far.
Yeah, by far. Even with that shitty paint scheme on it, it looked better.
I feel like that's the whole thing of this movie is like every car that like you generally see in it, I would rather take all the other cars but that Corvette.
Yeah.
It's Corvette Summer, but everything else is I think a cooler car that they run across, like the van, the Datsun, that it's not a Trans Am.
Was it a GTO at the end?
I think maybe that. Yeah. I think so. Like I that one I would definitely take more. All the cool lowriders that all the Mexican guys have.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah. Now, if it looked like a traditional Stingray, if it was that cherry red without the flames, without the dumbass hood scoop, and whatever they did to the headlights, whatever the fuck they did to those headlights, if it would look like it's the normal Stingray or a 60s Stingray, I would have been like all over that. But
yeah.
Damn, yeah, they fucked that car up. But anyway,
that's probably the reason why none of the other students were worried about going to get that vehicle. They're like, you know what, that was a learning.
Like, just let it go.
I learned some tips on welding and painting, and I feel like I'm good.
Mark Hamill's in his bedroom at night cutting himself. I should have fucking lowered that spoiler. I'm like, no, you should have done everything else. Oh my god. But we're picking on this movie more than almost any other one. This is actually pretty coherent and good, but that Vet sucked.
As I said, I actually movie-wise, I actually fully really enjoyed it. And I'm not saying that anything there. I think it actually is a very interesting one, and just the places they sort of go with it. And it was one of those movies where I just was waiting to see what kind of happened next, because it's like I couldn't tell what this was exactly going to be. Was it going to be like a bit drama? Was it going to go more kind of wacky comedy? Was it going to go hard drama at some point? Because, just the arch of character set up here is like you got this kid who literally is from, like, in a sense, let's be honest, like a broken home, wandering out to Vegas. And then you got another broken character whose whole idea of success is I'm just going to become a hooker, You know, like no drugs involved, you weren't captured from your own country and, brought here in the back of a van. No. You made this decision all on your own.
You made the van yourself. And then, yeah, you knew like 20 minutes in, like well, at least as soon as he gets to Vegas, you knew that this movie is not about him getting the car. Like there's going to be more to it. You know, the ending can't just be just him getting the car. Like that's just, it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. And, but yeah, it's more of a, and he says, I saw in an interview, Mark Hamill said this is more of a love story than a car movie. And that's 100% true. Like the car is like secondary to the Andy Potts and Mark Hamill relationship, which is the good part of the movie. But yeah, so she kicks him out of the van. He wanders around Vegas. He's looking for the car, finds the Datsun. Then he sleeps in the U-Haul. He's got a pretty good little setup in that U-Haul, just his radio. Something very cozy about it.
I got some blanket. I don't know where he got all this stuff from, but
he stole it.
He robbed the local Kmart.
Yeah. He wasn't a thief until somebody stole something from him, and then now he's got a, you know.
Yeah, it's just like one of those ones. It's like
the very Andy Dufresne kind of.
He was a good kid until he had one bad day, and it's just been all downhill since.
Yeah. He ends up with this stuff. He does have that bag with him because he throws it over the wall a few times, like when he's running for the car one of the 18 times he sees it. So he's sleeping in this U-Haul, wandering around, gets a couple odd jobs. He ends up at a gas station where this guy is like trying to teach him how to like swindle people, and it was really uncomfortable. He's like, "Hey, put these Alka-Seltzers on her battery and tell this lady she needs a battery." I'm like, Mark Hamill's like, "Yeah, but she's got like kids in the car. Like she's, you know, a seemingly good person, but then she turns out to be a thief too."
Yeah, so it just goes to show that there is more bad people out there. But even this dude, he's like, "Here, this is what we do. We'll spray paint these batteries, and they'll be like they're brand new."
Yeah, gosh, I kept waiting for like all of a sudden you hear a gunshot and these gas cans are defective. It reminded me of The Jerk, this movie, a little bit. I don't know why. It just had a similar vibe to it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it came out about the same time. I think.
It kind of did. Yeah, and another thing that's cool about this one too is it has some really cool just shots of 70s Vegas. Because Vegas is like one of those towns that's changed so much radically over like just the last 60 years than probably almost any other major city in the world.
Yes.
Like it's amazing how different it looks like every single decade.
Yeah. Vegas looks completely, I mean, it's been about 10 years since I was there. So it probably looks completely different now than when I was there. Mm-hmm. But it's, this one you get a lot of 70s Vegas, which is what Myrtle Beach looks like now. So there's a beach. Mm-hmm. That's if you want to know what Myrtle Beach looks like, it looks like 70s Vegas, except even shittier.
That's still kind of interesting though, because I love that old look of it. Like I feel like if to be in Vegas in like the olden days would have been so cool. Like when I was a kid, like I loved Vegas. Like that was my favorite city when I was younger because it had so many arcades and so much cool stuff to do and all kinds of restaurants that like everything was a great price. Like that's where I wanted to move for like the longest time. But like I could never con anybody else to go with me to Vegas. Everybody looked at me like I was a maniac for wanting to go there.
I've only been there once and I didn't even gamble. Then I had tons of free money on me when I went. I was on a per diem and I wasn't even supposed to be there. I wasn't supposed to be in Vegas. It just happened since I ended up there, and I had like $500 or $600 in cash that wasn't mine. Well, I mean, it was mine, but they just gave to me that day. Yeah, and I was like, damn, didn't gamble or anything. Just walked around and denied hookers for a couple hours with sleep. But that was really cool seeing the Vegas. Definitely shot it there. It wasn't like pretending they were in Vegas and they were in LA. No, it was definitely Vegas. Mm-hmm. And Mark Hamill's got all these hookers trying to take him for what he's worth, which isn't anything. So he can't get swindled by them. But he keeps bumping into Andy Potts throughout it, and they have their little beef here and there, but then they obviously fall in love, and she shows him the way.
She does, like full on, just brings her into that van. Like this is like that, also that time period too. Like because like I feel like in the modern days, you're just gonna let a stranger into your van in the middle of the night, like you know what I mean. But this is still that like hitchhiking's cool era. It's safe. Yeah, everybody's doing it.
When did that end? I'd say 90s.
I just remember as a kid growing up, like there was so much like no, you never pick somebody up.
Yeah. Same.
Only my dad picks up hitchhikers. That's
Really?
I don't know why he always was that guy who would pick up people. Oh, it was just old Bob over there. I sort of kind of know him, not really, but
Oh, if you know him, it's a little different, but still.
yeah. But like mostly it was always like I sort of kind of know him, not really. So, but still, like that kind of thing.
I know
this
person.
Yeah. So there's like that, but I felt like, growing up, it was just like that. The 90s felt like never again. Like, I don't know what the 80s was like for like hitchhikers. That'd be an interesting one there. Was hitchhiking frowned upon in the 80s and people still did it from time to time, or what? Was that the transitional period?
I think so. I think maybe 80s horror ended it.
Yeah, maybe that might have really like sealed it in, I know, like, of course, Charles Manson added that first, giant nail into don't pick up random hitchhikers.
Yeah, god damn it. Son of a bitch went out and murdered the coffee lady, and now I can't get a ride anywhere.
Yeah.
So, anyway. But, yeah, so that's basically the movie. It's Mark Hamill. He's falling in love with Annie Potts, and she learns that she doesn't want to be a hooker. And then the twist in the movie, so he's going through all this. They're both getting odd jobs and they're both working, and Annie Potts like in love with him, and she's like getting a job and at this place where she can make a little bit of money for him and also keep her eye out for the car. So she's totally invested in his mission.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, while this is all going, he's writing his teacher back and forth, like saying, "Hey, I'm looking for this car. I saw it a few times. I ran after it like Tom Cruise. Didn't get shit. I think I tracked it down to this one place." Well, eventually his teacher is like, "I got to go settle this." So he drives up to Vegas. He stops at his mom's house first. Like, "Hey, just let you know, I'm going to go out and see your son in Vegas." She goes, "Oh, he's in Vegas? That's crazy." And she even says to somebody, "Hey, did you know he's in Vegas?" And yeah, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Just space cadet mom.
Gosh, I have to know what room my kids are in all the time.
Yeah, not just like, oh, like, he hasn't even graduated high school yet either. Just letting you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jesus.
He's 26 years old right now, and
but that was his problem. So they didn't want to say that in the movie, but that was his issue.
Yeah.
So he goes out there, and then he finally finds Mark Hamill. And Mark Hamill's had a few run-ins with these bad guys who he finds stole the car, painted it gold, made it look way better.
Mm-hmm.
And he's so mad about it. And they beat him up a little bit, and that's when the teacher comes out to solve the problem. That's where you get the twist that the teacher set this whole thing up. Stupid fucker.
I just love how the teacher's like, you know what? Like, I'm a teacher. I only make so much money a year, so screw you kids and your project. I'm going to sell whatever you make because you're my like free sweatshop. Like, it made it feel like we were supposed to care for the teacher, and you're kind of like, no, dude, you're just literally like taking money off the shit. Yeah, like you should get fired.
Yeah, if you want me to feel bad for a teacher that's doing illegal stuff to make money, Breaking Bad will do that. Breaking Bad's like a whole thing.
Yeah,
he's got cancer. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to get what's owed to me because I deserve it. And then he turns into an asshole. But this one, he just is an asshole. And what's funny is even in the trivia on IMDb, it kind of breaks down that teacher makes a lot of money.
Because like he said, whatever he says it is, like I was just kind of calculating in my head. I'm like, that's not that bad. Like,
yeah, just for inflation, he makes almost like six figures, and he has that pool in the background. And kids are playing at a pool. Well,
yeah, that's the thing is like he goes like, "Oh, my kids are like all this great stuff." It just sounds like he's spending all this money and he just can't get enough. He's got the classic middle class like issue of like it's never enough. He's always looking at the Joneses.
Yeah. Piece of crap. And then so obviously Mark Hamill was told this story by this man, and he takes it horribly because he just does not take bad news well. And like that scene that it was really good up until that moment. you why would you do this? And he's like, I want to be teacher. Just be like, I just fucking told you why I did it. Because I was waiting for that line, but obviously he doesn't give that line, but it would have been great if he did. Because I was just sitting there thinking, Mark, he just explained to you why he did it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But, yeah, so Mark goes and works for those guys for a little bit, makes a little bit of money, gets an ugly shirt. Annie Potts, I liked you better when you were poor. And that's the movie. And then he gets into the car chase and gets his car back.
He learns that money is no good. It's better just to have your car and to
Yeah.
have your woman, and that's all you need,
Yeah.
And it's funny because when Mark gets all that money and he just starts living the rich life. It was a weird like total change going on there because he goes from having like literally one of the most slobbiest outfits like throughout the entire movie. Like there's one thing I thought when I was watching this, go like, boy, you think the kids nowadays dress like crap with all like their sweatpants everywhere they go and so on like that. And I'm looking at Mark Hamill here, and I'm going, dude, like if that's what the kids look like in the 70s, like Jesus, like that is just, he's just like clothes just all like slouched down, pants just doesn't look like they fit right. Like, yeah, it's just God, like
I think they were trying to drive home that he was poor and didn't have anything.
I think they were kind of working at that because nobody else seemed to care around him. Like no one they didn't bat an eye that that's how he was dressed, just walking around Vegas.
Yeah, like there was a couple people like that one guy that takes pity on him and buys his food. It's like, you're definitely on hard time, kid. And I'm like, yeah, he looks like shit, right? Oh man. Yeah, that was just, the whole thing was weird. But he gets his car back. There's a really cool chase scene at the end between him and I think it was a GTO. I'd have to look at it, but I think that's what it was.
Hey, I think so.
And that car looked cooler.
Yeah, way cooler.
Yeah.
Of course, Mark like just goes like, yeah, this car is cool, but not as cool as a Corvette with a goofy red flame paint job. It's like, your car sucks dick, man. Like, it's like, geez, just insult that guy. Why don't you? You don't even know who it is. You're just like, you're being an ass.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was like, it's like, what's the car like? Oh, well, it's way cooler than this piece of shit. Where'd you get this? The toilet store? Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah. But you were mentioning, the him acting rich scene. Yeah, he acted like a straight up pimp. He got like $850 and acted like he was fucking Don King walking into Vegas pre-fight, about to clean house.
Yeah.
And Annie Potts is like, I don't like this. I'm like, what? You like the guy that didn't take a bath and had $0? He's like living off your hot dogs that you got like for free in the U-Haul. I actually like that one better too. That got better too. He gets into a really decent car chase on this very conveniently made dirt racetrack out in the middle of nowhere, which I thought was really, really funny. I'm like, y'all should just race at this point, like 20 laps when he gets the vet.
Go for it.
Yeah. And he gets the vet, takes the, and gets the girl and doesn't sell out his teacher, even though he could have.
Yeah. He goes back to school and just gets his diploma, and just like, he like the teacher, there's that look that teacher has on his face. Like, I'm surprised the teacher hasn't done more effort to keep Mark from coming back, because he should be like, that's almost like a sub scene in there, be like, well, wait a second, this kid could really screw over everything. It doesn't really play out like that too much. It's there, like, I guess, lightly, but yeah, Mark just realizes, whatever, bringing it back. That was my whole goal. That was my summer, was I was gonna, go hardcore, live off the street just to bring this car back. It's not even mine in the first place.
Early 70s, Mark Hamill and Annie Potts get shot in the vet and they're dead.
Yeah,
like
that would have been the end.
Juliet, like kind of like analogy, like the Romeo and Juliet. They died in their Corvette together, and that's how it goes.
Well, because that's the funny thing about this movie. This movie is just, it's like even like 2 or 3 years ago, this movie would probably been a completely different style. We have just crossed over, because 76 is kind of when there's that crossover. People are like, you know what? We've had enough of these dark movies now. Let's get back to more like old school, like I want to go to the movies to feel good. Like, and this movie falls right into this. But if it was only just a few years before, it would have been like that one where like, maybe at the end of that race there, like it's one of those ones where like their car flips over or whatnot, and that blonde haired guy comes by and he has the gun this time, and he's like, you guys are trapped now, and blows it up. Cut the credits. No music plays.
Yeah, that would have been gnarly.
There's just a flaming wreck upside down, with Mark Hamill and Annie Potts burning up in it, and that's the end of the movie.
Well, they always talk about Star Wars for ending movies like that. And, everybody's looking for the hopeful thing. And Star Wars definitely had a play in it. But really, Rocky, too, was the movie that, to me, really shifted everything. Because people were like, yeah, I want to fucking win. You know what we need? We need a guy like Ronald Reagan to be president. It set up Reaganism, like Rocky did, which is perfect because Rocky 4 is Reagan. Like it's the epitome of it.
Yeah.
So I think Rocky is really the movie that shifted it, because Jaws in 75 is still a 70s movie.
Yeah, I feel Jaws is like that one where, because literally everybody dies, pretty much, except for what's his name?
Schneider.
Yeah, Schneider. He's the only one, but everybody else dies. So it's kind of still has like a 70s feeling ending to it, for the most part. But yeah, as it goes on, Rocky and Star Wars is, I think, the big shift movies that kind of change it and put us into that 80s decade that, some people like Tarantino just seem to hate the living daylights out of, even though all decades of movies all have their good pros and cons, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I like 80s movies a lot. I do get the argument against them, but everything doesn't have to be the same thing. And, sentiment changes. People look for different things in different times. After the 70s, you just want to be happy for a while. Like the 70s had so much good art, but suffering makes good art. And 70s were just kind of a rough time, fall out of the whole hippie thing. And, gas prices are out the ass. You have Jimmy Carter, who's been in hospice for 8 years now. The fuck is that? Anyway. So I don't know, Rocky was really but this is a quintessential post-Rocky, like happy ending movie. It felt like a lot of teen movies you saw in the 90s, the ending of it did, except the adults act more rational than at the end of it than everybody else does. And so we're like, like in the 90s, the teacher would have been like, Mark, I just want to let you know I changed my crazy ways and I'm not going to be like this anymore. Thank you for, teaching me the way and help me get out of this. And thank you. That's what happened in the 90s. And he's like, oh, you're still a piece of shit. I'm never talking to you again, but I'm not going to sell you out because of your kids. But that's only because you're a kid, you piece of shit. That's basically what this one is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It was an okay movie. Annie Potts is the main reason to watch this, though. She's really good at it. She's so beautiful in it. She's so good. She does look very uncomfortable because those jeans, how does she breathe? They're basically below waist corsets.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, she steals the show for sure.
Oh yeah, by far. I feel like she is like almost like the big highlight of this film. Yeah.
Mark Hamill's not the best actor. Let's be real. He's a great voice actor. Like, and I'm not just saying that like he legitimately is.
Yeah, he's the best Joker that ever. Like nobody's even gets close.
If he would have broken to that voice in this movie, it would have really sounded like Joker talking to Harley Quinn, because that's what she sounds like.
They almost could. They literally almost could have played Joker and Harley Quinn like in the '89 movie. Now that I think about it, I'm like, holy crap.
They could.
I mean, granted, Harley Quinn wasn't invented by '89, but still, like. Yeah. I always thought that Mark Hamill literally, I think, could have played Joker live action, though. Like that was not out of the question. Like I think, in any time in like the 90s or even 2000s, like that would have been totally possible, because he would. I think it was one of those ones like you could just get Mark Hamill in there live action, give him that intense look like he had in Slipstream. Just give him that look with like
green hair.
Yeah, green hair, and just give him the Joker voice from the animated series, dude. Like there you go.
Mm-hmm. I have to be honest, like, Jack Nicholson's maybe the best actor ever. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people could have done Joker better than he did. But that movie is that's a whole nother thing.
That's a whole podcast in itself. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I love Jack Nicholson as the Joker and all that stuff there. But I'm just thinking, Mark Hamill, man, like,
live action Joker.
Live action Joker.
I would like to have seen at least once. He did, he was in that Flash show.
Oh,
the new one and the old one. He played the same character. He played like some question mark kind of man or something.
Oh, that's right. He played starts with a T. Oh, whatever. I'm drawing a blank right now, but
the teaser something master. I think it was something master.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, he played in that show. We need to go back and look at that old Flash show at some point, but. Anyway, Corvette Summer, we watched it for free. I watched it for free on YouTube. I'm assuming you did the same thing.
Yeah, I watched it on that YouTube one there too.
Yeah, and it was a pretty good quality thing. I don't think there's we were talking about it before the recording started, that there's some breaks in there for commercials. This was not a TV movie, I don't think, because there was a box office to it. But I think this was the version that we watched was brought from a TV formatted version.
Yeah, it was a weird one because I started to get that weird feeling of like, I'm like, hopefully I'm not watching this like on one of those like the YouTube movie thing, like the Boulder Ram one where it's like all edited out.
Yeah.
that was my biggest fear. But I'm like, well, no, there was shit in this, and there technically was nudity, so it's definitely not that heavy edited version. So. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what the cut to commercial breaks was. That also could be every once in a while you'll see a movie though where like that's a stylistic choice is to have those kind of fade outs in there, which are always kind of confusing. Yeah,
I'm not really sure what that was all about, but I mean there was a box office to it. I think it made decent money actually.
Actually, it made pretty good because I want to say the movie was made for like $1.5 million, and it made like 36 million or something like that.
Yeah, it was something in that range. So it was actually a pretty profitable movie. Mm-hmm. There's some just parallels with this in American Graffiti, actually. So it's not as good as American Graffiti, you will.
Yeah. It's not George, but
no.
But it definitely is running on that like that American. It reminds me, it's like kind of like an American Graffiti for the 70s, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like where American Graffitis take place in 62, but like almost for like if you're a 70s like kid growing up, like this could be your American Graffiti in a weird way. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like that's what they're kind of shooting for, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Your Corvette Summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun little movie. You can go on YouTube and watch it. It's free of charge. I haven't paid a dime to watch any other Mark Hamill movie other than Star Wars in my life. So there's that.
You got choices there and so on like that. Mm-hmm. And it is one of those interesting movies for like any of like those kind of like car guys of just to check it out. I think it does fit as like one of those ones like, hey, you should check it out if you like to see those movies that have interesting looking cars and so on like that. I'm actually surprised I didn't watch this as a kid because I had one of those buddies who like he would like find every single one of the movies that had an interesting car in it. Like the movie could be almost like a crap movie, but if it had a really cool car in it, dude, he thought the movie was amazing. Like that, like they didn't take much for him to like do that. And he was the one that found like all the old like Gone 60 Seconds ones, you know, the original Fast and the Furious from like the 50s. You know, just idiot Vanishing Point, like both versions, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like I'm surprised that. I mean, it's like Doc Hollywood. That was one of his favorite movies because it's like he has a cool car in it, and he was obsessed with Back to the Future too. So, like, you know, it makes sense there too. A good movie though, but
yeah, it is a good movie.
But I'm just surprised. This movie feels like one of those ones like he would have been obsessed with it because it had a car that was right-hand drive. Like, I feel that would have been like, see, he would have like not seen like the paint job on the outside. He would have been thinking about the right-hand drive of the vehicle the whole time and thinking that was so cool.
Yeah, this is if you're a gearhead, there's some stuff in this movie for you for real, especially if you're one that kind of grew up back in the day. Mm-hmm. A lot of reminiscing. I don't know, what car did you want before we go? Like as a kid, what car was your like dream car?
I remember there was one where there was a GTO that I really wanted to get that I remember seeing for sale. You know what really bums me out? There was literally, remember when DeLoreans were worth nothing?
Yeah.
There was a dude that I ran to a car show when we were like in high school. So, you know, you have high school cash in your pocket. But the dude would have sold me an 80s DeLorean. He's like, I got one for like $3,500. And you think about that nowadays, but like that time period is like, where are you going to get $3,000 as a kid? But like, God, you think about that now, it's like, dude, that car is probably a $20,000 car plus now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, didn't have to do anything to it. But that was at that era where like, oh, you can't get parts for them. You know, they're really, you know, all that kind of stuff. And
dang, I would have killed. I would have. Oh man, I would have done a lot to get that car. I would be like Mark Hamill in this movie and trying to get that car. Finding a way. I remember I saw one at a gas station one time. I was just after work one day. I was just walking in somewhere and I saw this DeLorean. I still have a picture of it. Because I loved it so much. Oh man. Yeah, I always wanted the DeLorean. I always wanted either Z, but I still to this day, if I could have like an old Suzuki Tracker or Sidekick, one of those things, but like really 90s. I'm talking like maybe even teal interior.
Mm-hmm. Like the Suzuki Samurais and so on?
Yes. Yeah, like it's 90s as fuck. Like that's how I want it. Pink stripe maybe. Yeah, just audaciously. I want my car to look like a jet ski. Is basically what I want it to look like.
Well, it's like that one that I feel like when I was a kid, like, just the idea of having any form of like a big muscle car, like from like the late 60s, early 70s, like I don't care what it was. It could be a Dodge Charger, Dodge Challenger, GTO, any of those was like, that felt like that was the dream one. Now that I get older, I'm like, man, if I just had a really cool hip, like Bronco or even a Bronco too, that was all just, I'm so partial to Broncos and so on like
Me
that.
too.
They're always one of those ones like I had a buddy in the high school. He had like a 92 Bronco or maybe it was an 88. I can't remember. It was around that era one. And we used to just ride everywhere in that thing. Yes. And, we would just be whoa, just flying through stuff, jumping it. It was like the worst vehicle to jump because it just did not, it nosedived instantly, but...
Yeah, I always wanted a Bronco because all my friends, like my buddy Keith I mentioned earlier, they're all Chevy people. They're all S10s and Camaros and all that. But I always wanted either a Bronco or FJ Cruiser too. My first car was a Nissan 240 SX that I bought for $900. This guy who was just trying to get rid of it. He worked for one of the NASCAR teams, and he had done some work on it. And it was trying to make it a drifting car, which those are really good drifting cars. Yeah. And I bought that for $900 and it had a paint scheme. Greg Biffle is a NASCAR driver, but at the time he drove the Truck Series, and he drove this sparkle blue car. I can't remember who the sponsor was, but it was a sparkle blue truck. And my car, he painted the car with the paint from the race team. So it had this really cool color of sparkle blue. And everybody's like, "Where'd you get that painted from?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I had to like really work hard for this paint job." Like, but no, it came with it. And yeah, I love that car. And then one day I was driving home from work and it was raining a little bit. And I'm like, I'm going to kick it out sideways on this turn. And I did that. And then it was like God pushed me. So I'm like going one way. Next thing I was like way over here. Yeah. And it hit a curb and tore it up. And then I fixed it. But then somebody wanted to buy it for more than it was worth. So I sold it. But
I always feel like the days of drifting cars, like I haven't seen somebody attempt to drift a car like in a long time, but I used to do a lot of that.
Did you see?
The cars that probably were not ever meant to be drifting it, but like it was as well as ones like you just hit that corner and you downshift it and there you go.
Well, the weird thing was I wasn't really into that. That was not my thing. Like I wasn't even, but this is Fast and Furious era too. And I lived in Mooresville. I lived near Mooresville, which is where the race team was. It was a NASCAR Technical Institute. There was a NASCAR school near me, and which is where I met my buddy Kyle. He went there, but like all those kids were going there, and all they did was race. Yeah, go up and down through Mooresville. So every time I was in Mooresville, people pull up beside me like, "Yeah," I'm like, "No, I don't want a ticket." They get so mad, like, "Come on, man, let's race, big old pussy!" Like I'm just driving. Just leave me alone. But I would have won. But yeah,
that NASCAR school, those always remember those ones like that'd be fun just to go to, even for just 1 year for like just the experience. That you don't have to be anything beyond that. It's like going to a wrestling school. Like I always wish I would have went to one of those wrestling ones just for like even for like 6 months, just to like say like, I gave it kind of. I just wanted to get a little bit of that experience in there.
No, I know two people who went to that school, did the whole thing, and neither of them worked on cars ever. My buddy Kyle, and he didn't even like NASCAR. It was those Universal Technical Institutes is what it was.
Oh, okay.
But it was the same thing, but this one, it was that school, but this one just happened to have a NASCAR program with it because that's where all the race teams were. So I had like an extra step. If you wanted to get into NASCAR, that was a place to go.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. For some reason, I was thinking it was a race school. So it was more of an automotive school.
Yeah, it was an automotive school. And then it had like, but then it had a NASCAR program where they would kind of like recruit out of there and you get to work on the race cars. And they did actually do some work on some of the race cars and stuff and stuff like that. So, a lot of weird car stuff back in the day for me. I definitely didn't put up a fuss over my 240 SX like Mark Hamill did his Corvette for sure. I just like, okay, well, I wrecked that listening to 50 Cent when I wrecked it. That's what I was listening to. I didn't listen to that shit again.
It was a sign not to carry on, I guess.
Yeah, I'm drifting, listening to Candy Shop and about to kill myself. So maybe those days are over. But yeah, Corvette Summer. Go listen to it. Watch it. Yeah,
Watch it.
both those things. Yeah. On YouTube for free, so you have no excuse. But anyway, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I think we almost covered more of what this movie was, probably almost even longer as a podcast than what the movie even is itself. But
yeah, we had a lot of extracurricular discussions in this one.
It does. It leads to a lot of stuff. I think that's the thing about this movie. It's a movie about, like, if you were a kid or at least even had a buddy who was just really into cars, you know, back in the high school days, I feel like you could definitely relate to this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely. I didn't even drive in high school. I didn't get a car till I was out of there. So, yeah, I don't even know what I'm reminiscing for. But anyway, thank y'all. Y'all have a good one. If you want to discuss anything with us, you can always find Via VHS on social media at Via VHS on X. You can X me on X.
X gonna give it to you.
X gonna give it to you. He gonna give it to you. You can. They call them reposts now, not retweets. You repost. But I still don't know what a tweet is called now. Is it an X? Did I send it? Did I X somebody? I don't know.
Yeah, it's still bizarre. You still type in Twitter to get to the website. I wonder when that's going to change. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this thing just needs to go away. It's the Crystal Pepsi of social media. It's just stupid. But yeah, you can find us on X at Via VHS. You can find us on Instagram at Via VHS Pod, on Twitter at TikTok at Via VHS, and then on Threads if you ever go there. That thing still exists. So also you can go to oldmanorange.com to find everything that Spencer does. You can find the Pizza Boys comic and Old Man Orange podcast and all kinds of fun stuff over there. So anyway, go watch Corvette Summer and let us know what you think. And y'all have a good one. Via VHS is out.